The Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria has questioned the suitability and legality of appointing Hannatu Musawa, a serving member of the National Youth Service Corps, as a minister by President Bola Tinubu. The Writers Association also called out the appropriateness of the Nigerian Senate in allowing Musawa as a ministerial nominee to bow and go, in spite of the controversy surrounding her NYSC certificate. The rights group alleged that Hannatu Musawa absconded from her service here in Ebonyi State some years ago, but later showed interest to complete it, after which she was mobilized in 2023 and posted to a law firm in Abuja, where she is a serving corps member. Emmanuel Onwubiko of Hurowa joins us now to have a quick chat. Thank you so much for joining us here on Newsday.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, when we look at the provisions of the NYSC Act and examine it next to the provisions of the Constitution, that's specifically Section 147, subsection 5, and Section 192, subsection 4 of the Constitution, which in part states that the minimum qualification required for a commissioner or minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is the school leaving certificate. It might appear as though Musawa is in the clear, since the Constitution takes precedence over any other law. What's your take on that?
Well, I think what is in contention is not whether the lady is qualified to be a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The issue that concerns us is the practicability of having one person serving under the NYSC as a corps member, youth corps member, serving the country as a youth corps member, and at the same time serving the larger nation as a federal minister of the cabinet of President Bola Tinubu. So we think it's not proper, it's not appropriate. It's either she has to choose whether to serve, continue to serve so that she can finish her service here and obtain her certificate, or she excuses herself from the NYSC and then concentrate on becoming, as she is already a minister of the Federal Republic, and you finish that job, after which she can always come back to complete her youth service. That inevitably has been truncated by her appointment. But our concern is that Nigerians were not properly informed of her status, her current status, who she is, whether she is serving as a copper or not. That was not disclosed to Nigerians because the Senate failed to carry out their proper scrutiny on the minister. That is our concern.
And that is actually the point I wanted to piggyback on. It begs the question about the thoroughness of the screening exercises that we witnessed a couple weeks back. We know that the senators were around. We also are aware that members of the DSS might have had involvement in the background screening, but nothing was mentioned. And we do remember that the minister had quite a viral moment during her own screening. We saw her tear up talking about her life history. Even the Senate president making some jokes at her expense, saying that she wasn't at the UN and didn't have to tell her entire life story. So within all of that, none of this came out. Is this worrisome?
Yeah, it is, because in a democracy, the people are said to be the owners of the sovereignty of the country, sovereignty of Nigeria. Those who hold public offices, those who are in government, are doing so at the behest of the people of Nigeria, who donate the legitimacy to them to exercise authority as officials of government. And in a democracy, in a constitutional democracy, openness, transparency, and accountability are very vital ingredients for having good governance. Nigerians or the citizens of the country are entitled to full disclosures of who is being appointed as the minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, because the person being appointed is not just a staff, it's not even a staff of the president per se, but is a servant of the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So those citizens of the country who actually are the owners of the sovereignty of the country in accordance with the Constitution, the constitutional provisions. If you look at around Section 14, if the people are said to be the owners of the sovereignty of the country and they are entitled to be told everything, and particularly even if you look at Section 22 of the Constitution that empowers the media to be the vanguard of the nation, the conscience of the nation. The media is supposed to have access to all kinds of information, are supposed to be told exactly the status of who the president actually appointed to be one of his ministers that will serve Nigerians. So it goes to the heart of the constitutional requirement for transparency and accountability, because if you don't have full disclosures, if you don't tell people who you are, then definitely the person being appointed or even the appointing authority has a question to answer. And that is why there are mechanisms for ascertaining those hidden aspects or those information that certain individuals don't want the public to actually know. There are mechanisms for ascertaining whether they are in line with the constitutional provisions or whether they're in line with whether they're in conflict with any statutes or any legislation, any legislative framework that is in existence in the country. And the fact is that no matter what the Constitution says regarding the qualification for being a minister, that's not in contention. She is as qualified as any other person that has been appointed as a minister to actually be a minister. She's well educated, she's well read, well traveled, and she's a very good writer. But that is not the point that we're concerned about. The point that Nigerians should be concerned about is knowing who is the person that has been appointed to serve them. Particularly when you are even posted to a very critical sector of arts, and creative economy. Nigerians actually need to know, because most of these stakeholders in that particular sector are into their own line of business for the purposes of entertaining Nigerians. So Nigerians need to actually know who the president has appointed to. That's what we're saying. You cannot be a copper and at the same time a minister. It does not happen in this country where we're not saying that coppers are not qualified to be ministers. You can actually appoint a copper if you want to appoint a copper. But the person will now cease to be a copper, because how do you feel if the minister, who is the minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, now turns out in an NYSC uniform and she's mandated or obligated to attend the CDs they normally do, I think weekly or so, they turn out to do this. It will take away substantial time and even resources that she ought to actually focus and face her higher calling as the Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Duly noted, Mr. Onwubiko, but you've mentioned that she's in fact qualified. But the question now is the legality.
Yes.
Is it legal for a person who hasn't served to be employed by the government or an organization in Nigeria? Because this seems to be sending a different message.
I think the Constitution is not very straight-jacketed regarding whether everybody who is going to be in government must have NYSC certificate or must have graduated. Just like what you pointed out, the constitutional provision that says what you need to be in government is a school cert. If every other person who is going to serve in government is required to provide a NYSC certificate, then maybe the immediate past president is not even supposed to be a councillor immediate past president that couldn't demonstrate accurately where and what kind of certificate he has, So that is not our, we in Huriwa, we're not actually concerned about whether the person is qualified or not. But what we're saying is that you don't have to keep anything away from the people that you are supposed to serve. You understand? You don't have to keep anything away. What is so difficult, what is so complex for a person to say, well, Mr. President, maybe you don't know that I am a copper. Please, I am a copper, and if you're satisfied that I can actually render the kind of quality services that you need in the capacity that you want to appoint me, well, I'm going to abandon this particular line of duty as a copper, then I'm going to face the job of a minister. A lot of Nigerians are actually, when the first time we wanted to put it out in the public space, so many people asked the question. In fact, even some of our members, the trustees of this Huriwa were asking the question, what's the big deal? If she is qualified, what's there for a copper to be a minister? There's a big deal for a copper being made a minister and for that copper not to disclose to Nigerians through the Senate. In fact, maybe we may not completely blame her as such. We have to blame the Senate for not being thorough, for not being very professional, for being so, they just took the screening process like a political joke, like just a normal kind of, maybe like a kind of a village meeting. I think they are organizing a village meeting, a very, very convivial atmosphere.
But Mr. Onwubiko, based on what you just mentioned, do you think it's a case of not being thorough, or do you suspect there was a bit to potentially cover this up?
That was exactly what happened, because this matter has lingered for a long time. The lady in question is not a small, fly like that. It's not a very small person. It's not a small person like that. It's somebody of significance. She was actually picked up by the immediate past president and appointed as a member representing the Northwest Zone in PENCOM. But the Ahmed Lawan-led Senate couldn't allow her to become a member of PENCOM on the appointment of the immediate past president, based on the fact that she couldn't satisfy the Senate that she has an NYSC certificate, because they actually requested that she must tender her NYSC certificate, being that she is a graduate and that she graduated before age of 30. You must produce your NYSC certificate, and that was not done, and that was how her screening was unsuccessful in the last dispensation. And here again, we now have a case of even a higher appointment as a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And some people actually made some kind of uncoordinated kind of noise in the media that, this woman doesn't have certificate or whatever. That's the kind of story people were actually told. But we are actually concerned about the fact that there is a problem of a kind of a conspiracy of silence, or a conspiracy to conceal an information to the people of Nigeria. You need to tell Nigerians exactly what the issue is. That this person being appointed, though she is very eminently qualified to be a minister, but she's already doing a national service as a copper. So she has to choose which of the two she wants to do. Nobody is begrudging her of her appointment. She deserves to actually be a minister because she's very qualified, very educated. But what we're saying is that you tell Nigerians who you are, tell Nigerians what you are, who you are, what current status you operate under, and not just leave people to just base their conversations on conjectures. That was why we now went into proper investigation to find out what exactly is the issue. Is it the issue that the woman does not have an NYSC certificate because she's a graduate? She's even a lawyer. So if she's a lawyer, why doesn't she have an NYSC certificate? Did she leave university after the age of 30, which is what the NYSC Act stipulates, that if you're above 30, you cannot serve, you have to get exemption letter from NYSC. But this lady went to school and graduated within the normal period that most youths are supposed to have graduated. But she was even posted to Ebonyi State to do her service, but somewhere along the line, we were not actually told what what the exact issues are that made her to leave her service in a burning state.
Mr.
We didn't use the word that she
Allow me to interrupt you just for the sake of time. Devil's advocates and some others would say that this situation might be much ado about nothing. And I know what the law says, and we have stated that it is an oversight of being thorough with screening. But there's also an argument that this NYSC certificate might not be as much of a crime as some of the dirt under the fingernails of other individuals who deserve to be investigated for various other means. Maybe the energy being spent on finding the reasons as to why she is still NYSC member, maybe that energy could be spent on investigating other individuals within the ministerial bucket and within the Senate who have dodgy certificates themselves. This isn't the first time dodgy certificates have been brought up. Or if she declared that she was an NYSC member while she was on the podium, would this be an issue?
Yeah, it wouldn't be an issue at all. In fact, that is why it is an issue, because
it's an issue because she didn't declare it.
We cannot actually say that she fell. She didn't declare it. She didn't declare it, and she was not even allowed to declare it. She wasn't even allowed to talk as much as she would have, because there were no critical questions thrown at her, but she was asked to bow and go. It was like a kind of a political atmosphere of, people that are just there to joke. It wasn't a very serious kind of screening, the kind of screening they gave to the former governor of Kaduna State, which was very thorough. You could see that a senator stood up and made a presentation with facts and figures, emphasizing that the man wasn't, in his own assessment, he wasn't qualified to be a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But in this case, there was a deliberate and orchestrated plot at the highest quarters, not to inconvenience the lady with certain critical questions that would have exposed the fact that, of course, by law, you can't be a copper and be a minister. By law, you cannot. You cannot be a copper and at the same time, it's like, what are we even talking about? It is not legally feasible. Then
well, Mr. Onwubiko,
fact of concealing that fact.
Mr. Emmanuel Onwubiko, I'm so sorry, but we do have to call it a day for now. We certainly appreciate your time and your input. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Emmanuel Onwubiko is the Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria, a member, or CEO, I should say, and he's been speaking about the Musawa situation. Thank you very much for your time.